Okay, so everything Cyberpunk is still just kicking off and just blowing up all across social media. And Sony have now removed the game from their digital storefront and they're now actively offering refunds. But just because that is the case doesn't mean everyone on console gets a refund. CD Projekt Red have announced they are not in talks with Microsoft about Xbox doing it at all. And not only that, all of the physical copies of Cyberpunk are not being refunded because obviously Sony can't do that themselves. That has to go back to the retailers. And I'm pretty sure a lot of them are going to refuse it. So there are still a lot of people that can't refund it. But what I've done is, because of all of this that's going on, I did a search and I've looked through the most recent investor call. It will be linked in the description if you want to read it all. And this is directly done from CD Projekt Red, so there's no speculation here or anything. This is all official documentation. It's all public, so nothing wrong with sharing it and you guys taking a look. All you've got to do is just Google CDPR investor call and it pops up, top link. So I read through like the entire thing, and the whole blame, and that's 100% of the blame, goes to the management of CD Projekt Red. Whoever's managing the game release of Cyberpunk, every single part of the blame goes to them. No blame for the players, the community, or anything like that. It all goes to the management board. They have said themselves they were too focused on releasing the game. They wanted to just rush it out and just get them sales in before Christmas. They underestimated the scale and complexity of the issues and ignored all of the signals about the need for additional time to refine the game on the last-gen base consoles. It was the wrong approach and it was actually against their business philosophy, but they still went ahead and did it because they just wanted to get the game out as quick as they could. They have also mentioned in here, just for those of you that are trying to argue against it, the game should run perfectly on the Xbox One and the PS4. There is nothing stopping it, well, there should be nothing stopping it working on those consoles. So all the people claiming 7-year-old hardware, just stop. The developers themselves have said there is supposed to be nothing stopping it working on those platforms. Although, if you are expecting a next generation looking game, visually, like everything like that basically, if you want to have a similar experience to the PS5, the Series X and PC, then you're out of your mind. Don't expect anything like that, but the game should work fine on the base consoles, which is what I've said all along. People are still trying to argue it everywhere, saying, oh, you shouldn't expect this game to run at all. Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us Part 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, God of War, there are several games that are very, very demanding graphically, visually, whichever terms you want to use, and they all run fine because the developers have worked on making them work for those consoles, which is what CDPR should have done. They were working on doing it, but the management rushed them with their job and they couldn't get it polished. But there should have been nothing in the way of it working on those consoles. I just wanted to make sure that was very, very crystal clear. I've seen so many people saying that it shouldn't run on those consoles, it's outdated hardware. The game development started before next gen was ever announced. But they've also said that hiring more developers never would have made a difference. In terms of delivering a game at a certain point is not about the number of people working on it. They could only test the game internally because of the current world situation, and all the external testers can't do it from home, but they are not pointing to that as a major source of problems. So the game was obviously tested, the problems were reported, but management chose to ignore it. They have stated they did not spend enough time looking into the older generation performance and they just focused on PC and next gen. They didn't feel any internal or external pressure to launch on the specified release date, other than the normal pressure which is typical for any release. So those that are blaming the players for kicking off and forcing them to release it early, you can stop blaming the players now. It was nothing to do with the community for the release being rushed. Again, it was all the management. And they were updating the last gen consoles until the very last minute, which is why gameplay wasn't shown. So another pointer saying that management knew where the problems were, and they still just ignored it. They have come out and said that it's their fault, blah blah blah, but just going to put all these pointers in so that people know to stop blaming the community, to stop saying that the older console should never have run the game. And there is actually a lie within this part of the investor call. I went through the transcript so I didn't listen to it or anything like that, because there is like a recording of it as well. But reading through it, they were saying that the media didn't get a chance to review the game properly, which was not intended, but it was intended to have something dodgy happen, because the embargo for reviews stated that people were not allowed to share their own footage, and they had to instead use B-roll footage similar to the trailers that were already shown for the game. So they're saying the media never had time to review the game properly, but they did. They had plenty of time, they just wasn't allowed to use their own footage and stuff. And then next up is the sales split was 59% of the sales were on PC and 41% were on console. So people are typically going to have a decent experience. The game runs so much better on PC than any other platform. And that's all because the sales were lower on console. But that means not as many people will see the problems within this game, or you won't see as many problems within the game. So instead of being ignorant about the problems, just go and take a look at the footage that's been shared across loads of different social media, and just be more considerate for those that got ripped off by the management of CDPR. Because again, another thing, this is not the developer's fault, this is management. And I do believe the management needs to, someone needs to have a word with them. They possibly need to be fired, something needs to happen. Because what the management have done for this game is just completely ruined the entire company's reputation. The developers are in the firing line. The game's had a very, very mixed reception, and it's all because of their stupidity to rush the release of the game. The game should have been delayed again. It already had 3 delays, but it needed more time, and they just chose to straight up ignore it. And the Cyberpunk teams are scheduled to continue working on patches for the game. They're supposedly going to have one in the next few days or something. Then there's going to be one in January and one in February. But it says here that the patches will take more time, but they're still branching and working on other projects. Plus the devs are tired and there's the holidays coming up. They have said they'll have a strong team working on patches until at least February, so after that time, if the game isn't fixed properly, then who knows, and there is a possibility that these patches could get delayed. So if you're expecting, I don't know, say for example you want this game to be running perfectly by the end of February, it might not happen. Just be prepared for what could possibly happen. Don't just think, oh, this game's going to be fixed in a couple of months, it's fine, blah 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 blah. There are still huge concerns for this game. But as I said, this is all based on the last gen consoles. The management just chose to ignore everything that they were told about this game, and they rushed the release just because they were too focused on it. They just wanted to get this game out. They knew exactly what was going on. They had over 8 million pre-orders across the different platforms for this game. The management wanted to see that money coming in. So they just decided to ignore everything, ruin the reputation of the company, screw over the developers at the same time, and now they're in this very, very dodgy situation, because now you can't even buy the game, the digital copy of the game on PlayStation, because Sony have just removed the game, and they've said we don't know when it'll be back. It's off the digital storefront until further notice. So for any of you wondering what's going on within Cyberpunk, there it is. That's all the information you need to know. And on that note, I'm going to leave the video there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff about this in the comments. I will see you in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed it.